Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions, and another great edition of Danny and Tim's Music Scene. Great, because I know I just did it with Tim, and this introduction is recorded after that. And we're going to talk about things in a birthday theme, and some things that are unusual, some things that are a little tragic, some interesting documentaries and suggestions of things in the musical world that you can indeed consume, some really bizarre stories, some stories that maybe should have been told earlier. We got all kinds of things to talk about this time around, as we usually do. We'll also talk about what the outlook for the next year in the music scene is looking like, and how venues and artists can try and maneuver their way through what still will be a tricky early 2021, with maybe the back end of the year providing some solace as far as venues opening and shows being able to be done and things like that. And then maybe we'll be ready for a robust 2022. I hope we're actually robust before that. I've said this before. If people went nuts last summer and they really shouldn't have been doing it, imagine if we're pretty far along the way by the 4th of July or something like that. I think we might see insanity. I mean, a good kind of insanity. But Tim and I are always sane, and we're always talking about sane music things and fun music things, and we've got artists all the way across the board, and you'll find yourself having some fun starting up next on Danny and Tim's Music Scene. And it's all part of Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday. It's presented by Cinematic Visions each and every Wednesday. Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Visions' goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. I'm here with Tim Emerson, the owner of Emerson & Company. And Tim, give us an idea of the range of services that you provide from Emerson & Company.
At Emerson & Company, we do credit card processing, payroll services. We do bookkeeping, merchant accounts like point-of-sale systems.
What would you say differentiates you from other companies in the field, and what makes you special?
I think what makes us unique is that we're a small local business making regional decisions on companies. We create a profile for the business and then put it out to our different vendors in a very competitive environment and tailor those needs to the specific business, which usually ends up in a great fit or great result for the company.
And, of course, the idea is to save money, right?
Save money, and actually sometimes I'm surprised where actually a solution that may cost a little bit more ultimately does save money, but we're not conditioned to think like that sometimes.
Emerson & Company. Check them out at emerson-co.com or call them at 816-360-9092. I'm here with David Schmidt from Private Capital. And David, tell us more about your outstanding firm.
Thanks, Danny. Here at Private Capital, we focus on return on asset. In today's world, it is survival of the fittest. We look at things from all angles and try to figure out what works best for you. The changes we will see this next year on assets will be monumental. The key to success is knowledge. Know where you want to go, and we'll be here along the way. To find out more, give us a call at 816-221-7775.
David Schmidt from Private Capital with the best service for you. It's time now to get some great assistance on healthcare with Chad Beisel from NoNonsenseHealthcareNinja.com. And Chad, even your business's name would indicate that you have a real aggressive way and an important way to go after some health insurance for your clients.
What I've found out in the industry is just a lot of people are really confused. They don't know what plans are good, what their plans offer, how they cover. And so I've just taken the approach of being really educated on what options are available to clients and showing them all the options that are available and making sure they understand them so they can pick and choose what options are good for them.
And one thing that's really important, of course, is access to doctors and hospitals.
Absolutely. That's becoming a big issue for a lot of people. Some of the plans out there are going to restrict those clients to where they can and cannot go. So if you live just outside the Kansas City metro, some of the counties outside, you may not be able to go to some of the hospitals up here in the Kansas City area. So making sure that you have a plan that's got doctors and hospitals and places you want to go is really, really important today.
Learn more by visiting nononsensehealthcareninja.com and let Chad help you.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Welcome to Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday. It's presented by Cinematic Visions each and every other week, a phrase that I've not made up but blundered into, and it's a bad phrase, and I've used it often when we talk to Tim Finn because he visits us bi-weekly, a couple times a month, whichever phrase you'd like to come up with, and we are going to talk music. And first of all, Tim, I'm going to guess that you're not in this category, but as we're about 3 weeks into the new year yet, do you make New Year's resolutions?
No, I don't.
Me neither.
I mean, whenever I decide I'm going to improve my life, I just do it no matter what day it is or what time of the year it is. And, I mean, I get the point people want to turn the page on a year, and that's fine. I'm not doing anything. I'm sort of sustaining what I started to do last year. So I guess if I'm, resolved to do anything, it's that. Just keep doing what I'm doing because it's working out.
Well, that's a good thing. A good trend deserves to be extended. No question about that. Let's start off with a couple of things that are somewhat birthday related. I know recently you've watched a documentary about Janis Joplin, and she obviously was an incredibly talented person. Some of her music I like quite a bit. A couple of the songs I think are iconic to the nth degree. Other things I can live without, but certainly a very influential person. Another person who died long before her time. How was this documentary? Apparently it was fairly revealing to you.
Right. So Hulu just recommended it, and I think it was released about 5 years ago-ish. And as I was saying before, coincidentally, her birthday is Tuesday the 19th. So maybe that's why they were promoting this around this time. But I hadn't really considered watching it, and then it occurred to me that I kind of know the bare bones of her biography. I know she grew up in Port Arthur, Texas. I know she had some serious drug issues. I knew she had some, psychological issues, and she had a hurricane of a voice, and she was transformative for a lot of women. She was the beginning of women in rock for a lot of women. So, but I just decided I'd watch it. It was only like 95 minutes long, and what it really filled in was how she grew up in a pretty stable household. Her parents cared a lot about their children. They were pretty academic and maybe a little conservative, and maybe not super warm, but they made it clear to their children. She had 2 siblings that they wanted to be involved in their lives, and they encouraged them to do whatever they wanted them to do. Janis was a little bit of a outlier, and they noticed that right away. She wasn't like other kids in school, and she just wanted to do things differently, and she looked differently. She was always insecure about her looks. So, no breaking news here. Teenage bullying isn't a new thing. It's been going on forever. So she took a lot of psychic blows in high school, and then that continued when she left Port Arthur and decided to pursue music. And, one of the most notorious incidents in her life was when she was living in Austin, and the noblemen of some fraternity at the University of Texas named her the ugliest man in Austin, which was supposed to be a joke, but the friends around her said that wounded her pretty much permanently. Like, she never really got over that. So as she pursued her music, she, to kind of ease her psychic pain, she started experimenting in drugs. She got more famous. She was able to let go of her addictions every now and then, but then she got addicted to the fame and the rush of being on stage, and when she was off stage, she was alone and lonely, and so she went through the cycle of off heroin, on heroin, and eventually unfortunately, which is what really hit for me, which I hadn't known or realized, was that she was at a point where she'd found the ideal producer, Paul Rothschild, who produced the Pearl record, and he had laid this plan out for her. He said, "Your voice is going to change, and I want to be with you as it changes. We'll change the music you sing. You won't be such a wailing blues singer. You'll be more of a soul singer." And he had like a game plan for her, and she was really happy and felt good about working with him. And then this guy that she'd fallen in love with was ready to come back into her life, and they were talking about getting married. And in fact, the night she died, she took heroin. What her friends were thinking was probably going to be her last hurrah, because she had been off it for a little while. This guy had left a telegram for her, had sent her a telegram, and it was waiting for her at the desk at the hotel where she died. So there's a lot of angst about how she seemed to be at a place where stability was going to enter her life, both professionally and emotionally. And she just gambled and took a risk. And she was barely 27, which was sure seems a lot younger now that I have a daughter that age, and I realize just how young she was.
Right, my daughter's that age too. Yeah. Exactly, my older daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was really sad and tragic, and but you really saw who she influenced, and they had some testimonials from young women, well, younger than us, the women like Pink, and other young singers of today who were saying, "Oh my God, she was amazing," and she was among the people who inspired me to want to be a performer.
It's the 75th birthday of another iconic female artist, and that's Dolly Parton, somebody who has had a really incredibly diverse career in many mediums of the entertainment world. She's a songwriter, a good one. She started off as seemingly the stereotypical sidekick for a famous country act, and boy, she's lived quite a life, but it's always seemed like a delightful, down-to-earth person, despite her rather outlandish look.
Right. There's a quote about somebody I heard, and it applies to Dolly Parton, like, some people are unique, but Dolly's more uniquer than anybody, because there's really nobody like her. There will never be, not in this culture we're in now. I guess it wouldn't, a personality like hers wouldn't arise, we wouldn't allow it to, just the way she is. She is herself through and through. She stood up for herself. Like you said, she decided, I don't need a guy, I don't need a man around me. I can stand on my own. And she pursued it, developed this persona, but I think persona is an exaggeration of who she really is. But I don't think she's playing one role and she's a complete other in real life. I think she's really like that. And she comes off as she's like Willie Nelson in a lot of ways. Honest, true, heartfelt, righteous, apolitical-ish, but we kind of know where they stand on certain social spectrums, So, I don't know. She's just one of those personalities that who doesn't like her? Like, how can you not love her for who she is? And I've seen her only once when she was at Sprint Center last time, and what a delight! Just an absolute delight. One of the funniest among many funny moments was when somebody yelled out, "I love you," and she just deadpan. She goes, "I thought I told you to wait in the truck." And, and the place went nuts. And it's probably a line she says every night, but she said it like she just invented it that night. And but she was like that whole night. And she's an icon in so many communities, just among women, but also the gay community. They adore her because she stands up for things that's important to them.
No question about that. Has written some really iconic songs. I Will Always Love You, the Whitney Houston song, and obviously her own songs, and done movies like 9 to 5 and got Golden Globes and everything else. So she has certainly had an unbelievable career. So happy birthday to somebody that, you wouldn't expect we'd be talking about. People who are influential, and, she's written over 3,000 songs. She's in the she's in the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and you know, if you saw her on TV, and you know, somebody had ever seen her, they wouldn't take her seriously. And you know, she's serious. That's the thing that's good.
Right, and her whole you know, stage persona, you would think, is a way of her not wanting to be taken seriously. Although, you know, early in her career, she wasn't as electrifying in her presentation as she is. But
Right.
But yeah, she was obviously always very eye-catching and noticeable, and for a lot of reasons. But yeah, and her voice and her personality. She grew up in a harsh environment, you know, talking about upbringing with Janis Joplin, but Dolly Parton's was rough, and they were poor, and you know, she had to find her way out, and she did.
Absolutely the case. Certainly some other things. There's one more birthday to talk about before we take our time out, and that is the Michigan governor, Whitmer, has declared tomorrow, January 20th, as What's Going On Day in the state of Michigan. Oh. And actually, January 20th is also one of my brother's birthdays. But in March will be the 50th anniversary of the iconic song by Marvin Gaye. And so they're making a day of it. And certainly, unfortunately, the song is 50 years old, and it rings ridiculously true today.
It's one of those from that whole era. I mean, what's the Buffalo Springfield song, you know, For What It's Worth. That's still relevant. But yeah, Marvin Gaye, I mean, that's I remember the day he was killed. That was God, that was just so unfortunate. What a giant. I mean, I can just imagine and expect that he would still be an icon and probably still be relevant today if he were still alive. There were few like him.
Yeah, absolutely the case. And he was another person who was not just a performer; he was a songwriter, obviously, and did all kinds of really cool things. Died again too young at the age of 44. He would be quite old now, but that doesn't mean he couldn't be irrelevant. And you know, there's just so much of that. And he was actually connected to the Gordy family through marriage at one point in time. So all kinds of, you know, right up to his death. He was featured at the 1983 NBA All-Star Game where he sang the Star-Spangled Banner, and that was just a year before he died. So, and he was shot by his father. That's the other part that's so awful. Right.
Well, you know that he was on the Big Chill soundtrack, which came out in '84, the year he died. So there was already this sort of kind of revival, you know, behind him, and the Motown and that music because of that soundtrack, which went bonkers on the charts.
No question about that. So tomorrow, if you're in Michigan or you want to drive to Michigan or you want to just get online and enjoy What's Going On Day, it will be tomorrow, January 20th, almost 50 years after Marvin Gaye wrote that iconic song. More coming up with Tim. Go ahead, Tim.
No, I was just saying they could devote a whole month to Motown in Michigan if they wanted to, because, you know, one of the greatest musical enterprises in our culture's history.
Actually, my wife has a friend from her past days in New York in the theater industry who owns Berry Gordy's mansion now.
Wow.
And my wife has been there, and she went there, I think, about a year and a half ago. It has a bowling alley in it, and it's, you know, like 14,000 square feet or some ridiculous thing like that. So that's my connection to Motown, is my wife's visit.
Well, it's good to know it's still around and somebody's taking care of it.
Yep, absolutely. More coming up next with Tim on Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday. It's presented by Cinematic Visions, and we keep on rolling after this.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing. And, Joe, there's all kinds of roofing companies in Kansas City. People see their trucks, they see their ads, they see their commercials on TV. What separates you out from the pack?
Danny, you know, there's a lot of roofers in Kansas City that are good roofers that can put a good roof on, but we like to pride ourselves on giving you a good customer service experience. From the first time you call, you're going to get a friendly voice on the phone. We're going to let you know what's happening and when it's happening. And, you know, the other piece is some companies are small enough to do small jobs. Some companies are big enough to do big jobs. You know, we're right there in the middle. We can handle the little stuff. We can handle your repairs all the way up to your big commercial roofs.
So what's the best way for folks to get in touch with you at Easton Roofing?
You can find us at eastonroofing.com, or you can always call us at 913-257-5426. That's 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters. It's time to visit once again with Dr. Brad Woodle of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. And Dr. Brad, your group has reached a significant milestone in receiving a prestigious award.
Danny, we've been honored for the 10th year in a row to receive the 5-Star Service Award from Integrity Doctors. And what this means is that all of our offices throughout Kansas City have made sure to give people excellent chiropractic and acupuncture care, be on time, and do a very complete and thorough job, and have great responses back from patients.
I know firsthand because I was just treated, for instance, today by you. You have a wide range of fantastic services.
Absolutely. Chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapies, rehab, anything that you need to keep you well in bones, muscles, joints, and nerves.
And I can't say how much it's benefited me in the time I've coming here. Upwards of 2 years, my back has improved 100%. And you can have that same kind of treatment too. For more information and your chance for a healthier way of life, visit asfca.com/Danny today.
Hi, everybody. This is Matt Llewellyn from 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence. I just want to thank everybody for supporting local restaurants during this time of uncertainty. 23rd Street Brewery is now open until this pandemic is over. And right now, more than anything, local restaurants need your help and support. Come on out and see us. 23rd Street Brewery is open now from 11:30 till 9 o'clock for dine-in and carry-out. Whatever we can do to help you out, maybe with your catering needs, too. I appreciate all the support, and thank you for continuing to shop local.
Firsthand, I have enjoyed the benefits of the CBD products from Canaway. My back feels better and better these days, as a major part of my routine are the pain-relieving salve and the pure gold oil. And recently I had the pleasure of a treatment session using the Canaway CBD in conjunction with the Microlight 830 cold laser. The non-invasive treatment session worked wonders, and I could barely tell I was even being touched. TML 830 is the first 3B cold laser to get FDA approval, and in addition, the combination treatment with CBD is patent pending. The new smart laser is the only hands-free cold laser in the world and is used by athletic trainers, chiropractors, MDs, physical therapists, and veterinarians everywhere. You can learn more about all the great benefits from the complete line of Canaway CBD products by contacting my friend Sherry McCants at 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312 to get outstanding information about Canaway. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkScale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Welcome back, and we've talked about really complicated people, and Dolly Parton complicated just because of her youth. She's certainly overcome all kinds of things, and as we mentioned, I was 75 years old, but a lot of people have died too young, died tragically, and made a mess of things. In the case of the next person we'll talk about, the unbelievably influential Phil Spector, who passed away this week while in jail for murder. I guess that says enough about how complicated his life was, but certainly one of the most influential record producers and musicians, for that matter, and songwriters in pop music history.
Yeah, and post-mortem, he's getting as much grief as he is respect, and it's probably what he deserves, because what he did in the studio was immeasurable. The influence he had and the sound he created pretty much on his own, and the songs he wrote and the stars he helped create. But as a person, he was a pretty horrible man, and abusive physically and otherwise. Just one of those guys who got a pass, even though some of the musicians he worked with knew how he treated his wife and how he treated other people. Ronnie Spector was imprisoned by their marriage pretty much. She had to escape physically barefoot because he didn't want her to have shoes so she wouldn't run away, stuff like that. And the murder, the details of his murder are just barbaric. So it's a difficult thing. There were discussions on my social media that like don't hurt the artists he recorded by not playing his music, because you know what, they get money for it too. So it's tough at times to separate the person from the art they create. But if you were pretty steadfast about that, who would you be listening to? You know, I mean,
Right. Well,
even the Carpenters, like her parents were not very nice people. Like there's a lot of people become singers and songwriters because they're in so much pain and they've endured so much, and they were bad people, or they were bad people themselves. Who knows? So yeah, I mean, I won't stop playing Phil Spector songs, but the larger thing was, there's a history of this throughout the music industry, and Tommy Mottola's name was brought up when what he did with his relationship with Mariah Carey. He was the big, huge record producer that signed her, and then she was very young. I think she was still a teenager when they got married, and her marriage was pretty awful, and he sort of kind of admitted it, like, well, if she felt, not if she felt, dude, she did feel incarcerated by you because that's what you did. So, and then, like I was telling you before we went on, Ryan Adams, who's in one of my favorite bands ever, Whiskey Town, and then started his own successful solo career. He's kind of an alt country singer-songwriter, a guy who could fill, the Uptown with 1,800 people. He was successful, but he also brought a lot of women under his wings to tutor them and mentor them professionally, and sometimes he wanted it to be romantically, and he married Mandy Moore, and anyway, it was just within the last year or two that it came out that their marriage was a disaster, and all these women came out and said, yeah, he was abusing us, at least psychologically, promising us to put out records. He stifled our careers, and it was a lot of, gaslighting and just physical and emotional abuse, and he's been pretty much silenced. He was supposed to put out 3 records last year, or in 19, and he hasn't done anything since. So maybe it's at a point where it's okay to talk about it, and it's not okay to do it, and it's got to stop. And I don't know. Phil Spector wasn't the first, but he unfortunately wasn't the last either.
No, he wasn't, and somebody else from his era a little later fits into that category too. Somebody who was really super talented is John Phillips from the Mamas and the Papas, and
right,
and he just did horrendous behavior by him, and he got one of the my favorite non-famous songs, a song called Mississippi, and I love listening to that song, but every time I do, I'm thinking, well, this guy was a monster, and I mean, just absolutely awful. So, unfortunately, there's way too much of a history of that in the music industry.
Yeah, there's just so much darkness in that story. God, that's just awful. Yeah, it's, but, as I said a few minutes ago, if you start, I mean, John Lennon didn't have a pretty...
Right.
Has some pretty ugly moments in his life too. Where do you go and where do you draw the lines? Because there are a lot to be drawn.
Right, and obviously Phil Spector produced Let It Be. He produced some of the solo records by Lennon and Harrison. So lots of things that he was intertwined with so many famous people. I mean,
right. Well, and John Lennon. I mean, they enlisted him. They wanted him, even though they knew about him and they knew what was going on. They just didn't pry or ask details. They just figured, well, whatever, it's his personal life. And so no one took a stand, and it just encouraged him, or it did, he wasn't discouraged to stop, at least.
No question about that. I was thinking about this today. I was looking at, and we talked about this before we went on too, for whatever reason, I'm not somebody who reads the obituaries, for instance. Some people do that. I don't know, to find out who. I've never understood the fascination with that. Although I do enjoy reading. Well, enjoy, that's the wrong word. But the Star does something called, I think whatever the famous people who died during the week. I forget. Remembrances, I think it's called.
Right.
And that's usually quite interesting. But I do always read the birthdays in the morning, and. Usually my wife always is taken aback by how old people are. I'm always taken aback, particularly by musicians, of how not old they are. And that was brought to light today when, I think there's a couple of them today, but Dewey Burnett from America turned 68. And I would have thought, they became famous in 1970. So I'm like, how in the world is he only that age? And then you just get some, teen pop stars who do it, and they're only turning a certain age. I'm always generally fascinated by that. And the other thing I'm fascinated by is, oh, good, he's still alive or she's still alive. I never would have guessed.
Right. Right. Well, it's especially like if someone was famous at 24 when I was 12,
Right.
and now they're only 12 years older than me, and it's like, how are you not double my age still? What happened? I'm catching up to you. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like, because Janis Joplin was only 11 years older than me. So I think she was born in 47, I think. Yeah. No, maybe she was born earlier than that. I don't know. She's not much older than Dolly Parton. I think she's 2 years older than Dolly Parton. So yeah, it's kind of it's jarring when you see that you've closed that gap that was there when you were younger.
Right.
Pre-adolescent or
well,
teen.
I think part of it is the fact that they were adults, or at least you thought they were sort of adults. And you were a kid, although you maybe were a teenager or something like that. So you're like, or maybe it's just another way of saying you're freaking old, buddy.
Right. Right. Yeah, you're not taking account of how old you are.
Yes.
That's the problem.
Yeah, that is absolutely the problem. As we finish this one up, new administration coming in. It seems like maybe musicians or venues maybe are going to be perhaps a little in a better place or get some more legislation or some more backing as we enter the new administration? Do you think at least the first few months before maybe we start getting some venues open will be helped out?
So I read about this, a couple of things. Rolling Stone ran a piece right at the end of the year, and talking to promoters and bookers and tour, people, and there's not a significant amount of optimism for this year, but they think, it's not impossible to think that by, June-ish, maybe July, and they didn't say this explicitly. I interpreted it this way, that maybe a place like Starlight could let 3,000 people in, but it also depends on each municipality. Are they going to approve something like that? But they're saying, some larger outdoor shows, it's within the realm of possibility, yes. But, you can't just put something like that together in 10 days or 2 weeks. You need months in advance, because those are big enterprises. So that wasn't very encouraging, but there was a lot of optimism about 2022, like flat out. Yeah. That's pretty much what everyone feels on solid footing, saying there will be pretty much as back to normal as we can be by then. As far as the aid goes in that last relief package, I've heard different things about first of all, it's really hard to apply for it. So there's a lot of stipulations to try to make sure it stays with smaller independent businesses, which is good. But I think there's a lot of loopholes and a lot of stipulations. So I think getting the money is going to take a little longer than people hoped. Maybe that will be expedited, within the next week or so, when the new administration just starts to rubber stamp stuff and say, no, get them money now, they need it. So, and I don't know if that's possible, but it's, it's more possible now than it was a month ago.
Yep.
And
maybe a combination of PPP, and then that can keep venues really thriving, and at least give them the hope that, 2022 may still seem a little far away, but we can kind of maneuver our way through this year, maybe.
Right, and I think they will be able. They just want to stay afloat, until they're completely above water. And I think either just for real purposes, for legitimate purposes, or for just more blind optimism, people feel like they will get through this year, and shows will start happening in some form. It's not and shouldn't be like 2020. Right? I don't think there's any fear it's going to be that all over again. But what it is, it's still a little hard to say.
Indeed it is, but we'll be here to talk about it every other week, and hopefully we'll be talking about some shows sooner rather than later. But there's always some interesting, fun, tragic, and unusual things to talk about in the world of music.
Yeah.
Always thanks to you, Tim.
Okay, thanks, Danny.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.